Hi, and welcome to Ward 13 with Jon Hopwood. And guess who's here? Matt Connerton.
I am here. Wherever I go, there I am.
I was trying to get here, and I was coming down Kelly Street, which is always an interesting trip because nobody on the west side driving on Kelly Street seems to know how to navigate it. It used to be a really skinny street, and they widened it continually, and everybody still reacts like it's still that skinny street.
Really?
Even when it's not winter. And one block up from where Rich Gerard, after he went on his 2-week sabbatical after the Little Mouse sexting scandal, where he made in public a comment about one of the reasons he left Ward 11, the west side, was because it wasn't the changing complexion he used, but the changing things in the neighborhood.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then he's there because he's named in that lawsuit, that racism lawsuit.
Yes.
There at the candlelight vigil against racism. We all know that if Dr. Bolgan, who's the Manchester District Superintendent, who has an accent.
Yeah.
If he was like the previous superintendent, who Gatsis went after unmercifully and used his little trained poodle Gerard to go after.
Yeah.
If Bolgan, Dr. Bolgan Vargas, that's his name, Dr. Bolgan Vargas, if he was disliked by Stinky, he'd be mocking his accent because, like he did, allegedly with these Mexican voters down in Merrimack. The ones that, they're just inundating Merrimack, the voting place, and using a thick accent while they're at it.
Yes, it's pandemonium with the Mexicans at the voting booth.
Well, I see, and we're not going to go into it tonight because we have two people that are going to talk about their personal take on the refugee situation and immigration. I see that on Matt Connerton Unleashed, the Facebook site, that the WFEA Hound went into the water closet, which incidentally is a unisex water closet, and made a startling discovery. Now, maybe we can talk about that on Matt Connerton Unleashed after the Ward 13 with Jon Hopwood.
Yes.
And that we can reveal the startling revelations that the WFEA Hound found.
Quite the radio career of Mr. Gerard.
Quite the radio career of the WFEA Hound.
Yes.
I mean, I read that she goes back to like 1965. Now, like Spuds McKenzie on the Super Bowl, who came back as a poltergeist or a ghost, maybe the FEA Hound just is haunting the place.
I have a question, though. Is WFEA a place that you can just go and sort of hawk your wares?
I don't know, but I understand that Jack Heath last Wednesday talked about Stinky Gerard's rather ignominious career on WGIR.
Oh.
Now, was he on GIR? Because when I was doing a little research, I guess he got bounced off it after an unsuccessful stint.
I have I can't say who it is, but I have a source who tells me that he used to, that Rich Gerard tried to set up a radio feud with Jack Heath at WGIR. But Jack Heath just ignored Gerard because it's Gerard, who cares? So Gerard just ended up giving WGIR a bunch of free publicity in trying to... And I'll give Rich Gerard a little bit of credit. Personally, I love a good radio war. But he apparently was unable to actually start one. But he tried.
Any more news about IPM Nation? If you want to hawk your wares here, not necessarily about feuding or everything, but people should know you are proprietor of a online radio network and television network, a consortia, I would say.
Ooh, I like that.
Where you can find Slicko.
Yes, Slicko and many others, and these fine programs that you and I do here. And, of course, yes, IPM Nation is a place you can come on to and sort of hawk your wares.
At IPMNation.com.
That's right.
And you said you're looking for somebody special to talk about politics on IPM Nation. And what are you looking for in a person to talk about politics? Or do you even remember from 2 weeks ago?
Are you talking about that post I made where I said I threw out this idea that I wanted to gauge interest? Yeah, if you're referring to what I think you are, it's I had posted something on Facebook. I had an idea for a show about politics.
Yeah.
I would sort of be like a moderator or an anchor or whatnot, but I wanted different people involved. But my idea was, instead of conservatives ripping on liberals and liberals ripping on conservatives, it would be people only objectively criticizing their own. So, for example, if you're a Trump voter, but maybe you're unhappy with something that Trump has done or something you're concerned about, you come on, you do a segment about that. Or if you're someone who supported Obama, as I voted for Obama in 2008, and I was disappointed with the foreign policy that followed.
So was I.
As we've talked
Which
about.
made me vote for Jon Huntsman in the Republican primary, 2012.
Right.
But we didn't get Jon Huntsman running as a Republican candidate, did we?
No.
He might have won by 48 states.
He would have been a phenomenal general election candidate. But, so if you're someone who supported Obama, but you wanted to come on and do a segment about how Obama disappointed you, like on foreign policy, as he did both of us, so the idea would be people, because I feel that one of the things that's really unhealthy about our politics in this country is, people treat it like a team sport, left versus right, red versus blue, us versus them, and they're generally very reluctant to criticize their own and to hold their own accountable. And my opinion is, in a truly healthy political environment, Trump supporters, Trump voters would be the
criticize
first. Right. They would be the first to criticize him. The first to say, wait a minute, we voted for this, and he seems like he's already wavering on that or whatever. So, and the same for Obama and anybody. People should not just blindly. It shouldn't be, okay, our guy won, yay, now we get to just not pay any attention for the next 4 years.
Now, if anybody's interested in having a program, like a radio program, how do they contact you?
Matt at IPMNation.com.
There you go.
Yes.
And we are going to call my friend Lisa.
All right.
And we're going to ask her about a personal experience with immigration.
Oh, okay.
Now, you know how wonderful I am at this. We don't have to put a what one in, right?
I don't think so.
Well, we're going to find out, folks.
Yes.
Oh, Jesus.
Yes, we have 2 lines now. We're all fancy.
We've already screwed up. Now, Kirsten, if I was switched to her, I'd say, you edit that out.
Yeah, did you bleep that, Kirsten?
We should leave poor Kirsten. Kirsten's not used to feuds.
They didn't teach you how to do that?
Jeez, Well, Matt, while I'm doing this, why don't you tell, what else have you been up to lately?
Oh, boy. I'll tell you what, while you were talking about IPM Nation, we've added a ton of programming.
You have?
We have. Lots of programming. That schedule's filling right up. Yesterday, we launched Uptown Auto Repair Presents Ask a Mechanic, a new show with Jon Hopwood. Not John, you're Jon Hopwood. John Heichel.
Do you really believe that Pinardville is uptown?
I do, actually.
Okay. I grew up in Pinardville, so...
Well, except for that flower shop.
It's kind of uptown on Manchester.
Yeah.
And, but it's downtown if you consider Goffstown. Lisa, how are you?
Hi, good.
Welcome to Ward 13 with Jon Hopwood. This is her second appearance. I don't know if you were on the show, Matt, where she appeared over a year ago about vaccinations.
No, I was not here for that.
Tom Massengale was on.
Ah, yes, I remember Tom.
Lisa, how are you?
Very good, very good. So,
now, I've known Lisa. Yeah, I've known Lisa for 30 years. We were stationed in the same Army unit, the Military Intelligence Unit, in West Germany.
Oh.
Now,
okay.
Lisa, you recently made a trip to the Vaterland, Deutschland, Germany, and
yes.
Why did you go to Germany recently?
Well, my husband's sister has relocated from Syria to Germany with her 4 children.
Now, your
And,
husband was born in Syria and raised in Syria?
Yes, he had Syrian citizenship before we married.
Okay. And have you been to Syria?
Yes, I've been to Syria 3 times. The last time we went was right before the rebellion, so it was 2010 was the last time I was there.
You know, I really enjoy Syrian bread with my Greek salad.
Now, Matt, you're being a Weisenheimer.
I just relate everything to food.
Honestly,
well, the Syrians like food a lot, so.
Honestly, that is how people relate.
It is.
Tell me what Americans know about Syria. It was a French colony, and it's anti-Israel, and the Assad family has run it since 1970.
Well, and of course, according to people of a certain ideology, lots of dangerous refugees come from there who are just waiting to get on a plane and get to America and start shooting up the place.
Lisa, is Syria full of dangerous refugees that just want to come to America to shoot up the place, like Matt just said?
No, if anything, they're just economic refugees who just want to have a better life.
And what's happened in Syria since? First of all, what do you call it? You call it the rebellion. Is that what your husband's family would call it, the rebellion?
You know, I don't really know what they call it. I just know that when it first happened in this country, that's what we were calling it. We were calling it the rebellion, and then we decided to support certain rebel groups, and it just got more complicated from there.
Now, the rebellion is against Assad, President Assad,
yes,
who is a
yes,
dictator.
There was a rebellion against Assad, right.
Whose father ruled Syria for over 30 years.
Wow.
With an iron hand, and kept Islamic fundamentalists in check.
Right.
By basically killing them.
Yeah.
But, so, what happened in Syria? So Syria, before the rebellion, was it a livable place? His family, they were content in Syria?
Yeah, Syria was very livable. Of all the Middle Eastern countries, this is what my husband always told me before I went there. He'd say, you know, in Syria, you don't see women walking around with headscarves all the time. I mean, people wear Western clothing. It's very secular. It's a secular country, and you know, back then it was one of the few Middle Eastern countries that was totally secular.
Which, like Turkey, because Ataturk kept Islamic fundamentalism in check. Right. So Syria and the Ba'athist Party in Iraq, Saddam Hussein, and then the Shah of Iran kept it in check.
Yeah.
Well, the Ba'ath Party was also, that's the party of Assad in Syria.
Right. It's kind of, they would call it a type of a socialist movement from the 50s based on Nasser, who became the dictator of Egypt when he overthrew King Farouk in 1953. And Nasser was a power unto himself, non-aligned movement. And
so what changed with the father to the son?
What
spurred the rebellion, Lisa? First off, we know.
First question is what changed from father to son, and I remember very distinctly when that change took place, and everybody was so hopeful that things were going to loosen up in Syria, because you know when Assad the father was in power, people were not free to talk about politics. They could be, you know, thrown in jail, disappear. Those sorts of things would happen, kind of like, you know, the old Soviet Union.
Yes.
And
or now.
Then the son came in, and everybody thought, oh, liberalization, this is going to be so good. He's Western educated, you know, his wife is Western educated, and it didn't happen. You know, the hopes weren't fulfilled. And then when the Arab Spring started, the Syrians thought, hey, Arab Spring, why can't we have it too? And then they started, protesting against Assad, and he clamped down, and that was it.
To stay in power.
It was all downhill.
Well,
and I heard that it was his mother whispering in his ear, just telling him, you can't let this happen. You have to rule with an iron fist like your father did.
You didn't want to end up like Gaddafi or something.
Well, the tension when you're promoting democracy in the Middle East is that Islamic fundamentalism with the huge population explosion is very popular amongst the mass.
Yeah.
They look to that for some type of relief or some moral beacon. But many Islamic, the vintage of Islamic fundamentalists since Khomeini and Iran is towards a theocratic state. Whereas in Iran before that, there was a understanding that the mullahs there was a separation between church and state. And the person that would have been the most likely person to take the role that Khomeini won through the revolution was murdered by Gaddafi when he went to Libya as a stop to go to Italy to meet Iranian dissidents and was murdered. He was decoyed.
Okay.
And the thing was, the Shah, this could be a whole show, the Shah had his chance to murder Khomeini. Saddam Hussein offered to murder him because, Shia, the religion, Iraq, there's no real border in religion.
Yeah.
But see, when you get to like Syria, if you're going to democratize, you are, like with Khomeini, you are empowering a element that could be extremely anti-democratic.
Right.
So, the West, what do you do? What do you do when you decide to replace a dictator?
Right.
When you get rid of Saddam Hussein, you have anarchy.
He was a dictator, but he was our dictator.
Kept everything in check.
Kept Iran
so
at bay,
once this happened, Syria goes to hell, disintegrates, right, Lisa? Because the strong man is gone.
Well, yeah, and also the strong man is a religious minority.
Oh, he is?
Whereas the majority in Syria is Sunni Muslim. Although, I mean, they were secular mostly, at least when I was there.
That's right. Iraq is mostly Sunni, but Shia, Saddam Hussein, they didn't really truck with religion, but they were Sunnis, and that is important to people.
Yeah, because Saddam didn't care. Like, he was very secular, right?
Well, that was the Gaddafi from Nasser and them. They consider themselves socialists, that's a term that was used from the 30s on by a wide variety of people.
Right, yeah.
So, but they're Ataturk, who with modernization of Turkey after Ottoman Empire, created a secular state, which is under intense pressure now. That's why they're never allowed into NATO. One of the reasons, because you don't want the fundamentalists coming to power in Turkey.
Yeah.
So it's quite a situation there in Syria. It's quite complex, isn't it, Lisa?
Yeah, it's really complex.
But what are the
because now with all the different rebel groups, I mean, who do you support? How do you tell where your aid is going? How do you know if it's going where it's supposed to?
Yeah, that's why I'm someone who objects very much to our getting involved in these sectarian conflicts and whatnot. It only it backfires on us because you don't know, and then you end up in situations where, for example, in Iraq, where ISIS has been seen using military hardware that we supplied to the Iraqis. It's crazy.
But ISIL. One of my favorite things during the last election was sometime during the primary season, one ISIS group or anti-ISIS group supported by CIA was attacking an anti-ISIS group supported by the Department of Defense.
I remember that.
Doesn't that sum up the anarchy?
It does.
And when you take these dictators out, listen, Jimmy Carter really screwed up in Iran. And there's a recent book about that came out, which is shorn of the propaganda of the 70s. It was a fascinating book to find out about Iranian society and that. And now Iran, we have a president that's threatening to go to war. Well, Iran destroyed Jimmy Carter's regime. We could talk about that another time because it's a much more complex society than Americans are led to believe.
Right.
Like to become a mullah, you come up from the bootstraps. You get your power because the people give it to you. Like Khomeini.
Yeah.
And they are genuinely men because they are men of the people in their way.
Right.
But what's the human element like? What's it like to find your sister-in-law a refugee in Germany?
Well, I don't, you know, I went after they've already been sponsored, so they have their own apartment now. But for this past year since last January, they've been in Germany, and they were living in a camp near Potsdam for the first 5 months, and then they were moved to Brandenburg, where they are now.
East Germany,
and they
Prussia.
Lived in a camp there also until they were chosen to be sponsored by the local church.
The Lutheran
and the
church.
only reason they got sponsored is because they're not Muslim.
So they are Druze. Your relatives are Druze. Your sister-in-law.
Druze, yeah.
Druze, right.
Druze. It's a religious minority.
In Lebanon and Syria.
Yes, and also in Israel.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I was going to say, I'm not familiar with that at all.
Well, the Druze, Israel, they fought Israel to a standstill in the 80s, so then they paid them to go after Muslim groups in the in Lebanon.
Okay.
They are descended from, because they have blonde hair and blue eyes, they're descended from the, what do we call it, the Crusaders. They just stayed behind, and it's a religion. It'd be kind of like what Mormonism is to Christianity.
Okay.
Except in Islam, they don't consider them Muslims, and they don't consider themselves Muslims. Too.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Muslims consider them heretics.
Heretics.
Sure.
But of course, Muslims considered the Wahhabis, the House of Saud, as heretics. But until they controlled all the oil.
Yeah.
And then they have to deal with them.
Right.
They're considered heretics too. But so. If your sister-in-law had been Muslim, she would not be in an apartment now with her 4 children. She'd still be in a refugee camp?
she'd still be in a camp.
So, unlike the press saying Merkel and the Germans are just rolling over and, you know, bringing in Muslims by the boatload and, you know, the propaganda here, that's not really true, what we're hearing. That they might be refugees.
They're being strictly vetted.
Right.
They're all being vetted very thoroughly.
Yeah.
During the vetting crisis, so-called vetting crisis that the Republicans brought up during the presidential primaries, one found out that anyone from Syria was thoroughly vetted, and most of the refugees had a relationship with America, either through the military or intelligence or something.
Well, it takes up to 2 years typically, right?
Right. Yeah. So, what do you think about President Trump's order about the immigration from the 7 countries?
It's ridiculous, of course.
It's madness.
But I think it's probably a smokescreen. He wants to draw attention away from his real agenda pieces, like, you know, Bannon on the Security Council and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It makes us less safe, too.
Right.
What Trump has done. It's made us less safe, not more. It's as though he's trying to prove, you know, to say it very broadly to the Muslims of the world that we really are anti-Muslim or bigoted toward these people.
Well, 2 things come to mind. Yeah. In the 90s, after Iraq acquired nuclear weapons, which they have, but the Clinton administration started a dialogue with them.
Yeah.
And not for the public consumption, although you could even, without having the sources or knowing how to find the information, you found out that the United States and Iran were talking to each other. And then W, when he created this coalition against terror, had to make a speech.
Right.
North Carolina, well, they might be terrorists, like they voted for Trump, right? North Korea, Iraq. Oh, we need a third country.
Oh, the axis of
so they throw in
evil.
Iran.
Yeah.
So that gets them angry again.
That was a terrible moment for all kinds of reasons.
Everybody's talking about the new generation of Iranians. There's 70 million people. There was only 30 million in 79.
Yeah.
They'd like to, I'm sure like Syrians, like Lisa, they would like to be like more Western, have a little more democracy, have access to this or that, you know.
They like us.
And then suddenly
the people.
you're demonizing them and you're taking them right back to the fundamentalists.
Yep. Yep.
So it's like disaster.
It was such a terrible moment.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's the same kind of self-inflicted wound.
Yeah, but we're talking about Steve Bannon, the Breitbart guy. That's what he does.
Yeah.
Is create like Dr. Goebbels.
Mm-hmm.
Like Lisa, they're going to have Trump announced the first few days in his presidency, he's going to publish a weekly list crimes committed by immigrants. And what did Hitler do in Dr. Goebbels? Crimes committed by Jews published every week.
Yeah.
You know, anti-Semitism was very virulent in the 30s and 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
And now, you know, I have family members who are Muslim, so I was talking to Lisa about it. You know.
Okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
My niece was a captain in the U.S. Army in Kosovo, and she fell in love with her interpreter, who was, you know, military employee.
Oh,
and
wow.
she converted.
Oh, wow.
So when you go up to the VA and an employee is talking about making racist comments about Muslims right after the massacre up in Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Wow.
I controlled my PTSD that day.
Yeah.
So, see, I'm getting better, huh? Do you have any final thoughts, Lisa, before we let you back to... What's it like in Los Angeles right now? What's the weather like?
Oh, a little rainy.
A little rainy.
No.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Not too bad.
Is it giving you the blues?
Such a shame.
What's that Mamas and Papas song? I could be in L.A.
I just wanted to say one thing.
Okay.
In Germany, the first refugees that came through got settled in West Germany.
Right.
And it's more liberal there. People are used to, you know, immigrants and stuff in Western Germany. And
Yes.
And now the later ones got settled in Eastern Germany, and it's much, there's much more xenophobia there.
Right, that was the former East Germany, the Democratic Republic of Germany, East Germany under the Soviet grip.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's much poorer than West Germany. When we were stationed there were guest workers from Turkey, so there were millions of them.
In Western Germany.
Right, and a Turk, mostly Muslim, they are, could be born in Germany, but you have no citizenship. So
I have a question about Turkey. At one time, wasn't Turkey more? Wasn't it kind of half and half?
what?
Like 10 years ago, in terms of like half Muslim, half Christian.
No, you're thinking of Lebanon.
Am I?
20
Okay.
years ago.
Okay.
They were mostly Muslim, but Ataturk created a secular society that lasted 70 years. Our friend Karen, remember Karen went to Turkey in the mid-'80s, Lisa, and she told us that Ataturk, Kemal Ataturk, was on coins, and that anybody that would like put their hand on a coin or step on a coin or deface it would be, the people so revered him.
Huh.
Like maybe George Washington for the first 20 or 30 years. Or Ronald Reagan amongst certain Republicans.
St. Reagan, yes.
Yeah, Lisa and I were in the military. He was our commander-in-chief when we used to listen to, remember Lisa? I don't remember you were there, but Dutch would give a press conference and he'd be speaking gibberish from an old 1939 Brass Bancroft movie. You once told me that hearing Dutch's voice, Reagan's voice, made you physically sick. But that's another story. Our disabled president. There's something...
You know, it's funny because Trump's voice has the same effect on me.
The same?
I think he has on many people.
The same or worse?
Well, Lisa...
I have to say he's probably worse than Reagan.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Let's get you on again with more notice.
Okay. Take care.
All right, it was nice to meet you, Lisa.
Yeah. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that was interesting.
They're just human beings like anybody else.
Yeah.
You know, when I grew up, my oldest aunt would be 102 now. She was Catholic. My cousin married a person my aunt would refer to as the Jewish attorney. That was
Really?
a big thing, you know.
Yeah.
But now it's Islam.
Yeah.
There's always got to be an other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's legitimate things that can be brought up about their religion, about immigrants, about terror and everything. But you can't do it in the way Bannon, acting President Bannon, is doing.
Like I said, I mean, you know, the immigration ban, the travel ban, clearly it made
It's
us
unconstitutional and it weakened us, but
yeah, it made us less safe. It's I think I said this last week. It was the greatest recruitment tool ISIS ever could have wanted.
maybe that's what they want. Hey, Kirsten, can we see slide number 4, Bannon and the Dummy? I got it for your show, too. There it is. There's Steve Bannon. I remember when I was a kid, there was a guy, what was his name? Somebody might be able to call in.
Bannon kind of looks like Robert Redford in that picture.
Oh, what was the guy? There was a guy that was a ventriloquist, Paul Winchell.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what his dummy was. I know it wasn't called the Donald. And did you see SNL with Alec Baldwin? Can we see slide number 5, Bannon and the child?
Yes.
See, that's Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
He's at the president's desk, and they got the little tiny desk for the Donald, the
Yes.
child.
Yes.
God, that was brilliant.
Oh yes, absolutely.
It was amazing. Why don't you add a few words? We're going to call yet an authentic immigrant. Lisa's a United States citizen and was born here.
Yeah.
We're going to call up our friend Victoria,
Yes.
who...
Also known as Vika, also known as...
okay, we don't have to get you... I was asking you to share some of your thoughts.
Well, that was my...
Not about Vika, about what's going on.
That was my thought, that we also call her that.
And we got a message, button up your shirt, from that woman that keeps sending MASH notes.
Well, the thing is,
My tie is not too wide.
you can't... the problem is you can't tell. My shirt actually is fully buttoned. It just looks like it's not because I have so much hair. It just kind of spills out the top of it. Is that what you meant by thoughts?
I think that you ought to... you've got an extra buttonhole there. We don't want to get anybody up and at him. We have Robert.
Oh, Robert loves the chest hair.
Robert, you were on Ward 13 with Jon Hopwood and the hirsute Matt Connerton. Are you there?
Yeah. I know this is old news, but I've had this on the brain for a long time. Kelly Ayotte deserved to lose that election, okay, by standing in a way of letting Obama, nominate a high court justice.
Right.
And that was just plain shameful.
I agree with you totally, and it was unprecedented, too. You give them a vote.
Give him a vote, yeah. They wouldn't even give him a hearing. Nothing.
And then vote, yeah.
Literally nothing for Merrick Garland.
But you see, Trump's so screwed up on attacking that federal judge, he's hamstrung the Republicans now. That's a Bush appointee. That's the federal judiciary. They're a co-equal branch of government. People like Joe Kelly LeVesque is a lawyer. How can he not understand stuff like that? Co-equal branch.
Checks and
president
balances.
is not above the law.
Right.
Although dumb Donald doesn't, the dummy doesn't understand that.
Well,
but he's alienated the federal judiciary
Yeah.
now. He's not going to get that guy. They're going to have to go with more of a moderate. And Mitch McConnell said, hey, let the Democrats use the nuclear option. Remember, he was going to try to deny it to them?
Yeah.
We'll try to get 60 votes. So McConnell is canny. He's a canny old fuck.
Oh, he
that
is.
used to hand out sacks of cash from the tobacco industry right in
Wasn't
his
that Boehner?
office.
I thought that was Boehner who did that.
No, that was McConnell.
Maybe I associate it with Boehner because Boehner looks like the Marlboro Man.
Oh, he was orange. He was orange.
That's true.
I went to a thing with him and Frank.
He was our first orange American Speaker of the House, Congressman Boehner. So he
Well,
also made history.
possibly, Franklin D. Roosevelt and Teddy Roosevelt were Dutch. That's the House of Orange.
Ah, there you go.
They were patroons, which is their term for aristocrat.
Ah.
That doesn't sound like her number. But I
You
usually
tell by
call
the
her my
ring?
cell phone.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Victoria, are you there? Victoria, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
We are hanging in there. We're having a snowstorm here, and it's a type of snow that I was coming up from a VA hospital in Bedford, Mass, and one thing was 6 people right off the side of the road.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but see,
Wow.
we're used to like going up I-5 in a sandstorm, put 60 cars off the side of the road.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is a tiny state, but has a very, its punching power in politics is second to none.
That's
Honestly.
right.
We made Trump president. New Hampshire is responsible for Trump being president. What would you say
Ooh.
about that? You have many reasons you told me you don't want to visit Manchester, New Hampshire.
That's a lot to live down.
Victoria, our Russian correspondent, how are you?
I'm doing great.
I was revealing information that I had to cover up, but
Oh, my. What about the sandstorm?
yes, about the
Oh.
sandstorm.
Oh.
Why?
Is that code for something?
Victoria, you are an American citizen, are you not?
Yes, I am.
Well, you
Why
never
the-
had any problem admitting it till January
Why
20th.
the hesitation?
And your mother lives in Russia, does she not?
Yes, she does.
And your mother had a visa to come visit you here in the United States.
Yes, she did.
And
The
what
second
happened?
time.
What happened to her? Everybody's focusing on the 7 Muslim-dominant countries. What happened to your mother's visa?
Well, my impression is that it didn't just happen. I mean, the ban happened to those 7 Muslim countries, but it seems like the procedures for other countries also got more complicated and harder. So right now, my mother needs to
Simultaneously.
go again to the embassy to apply for her visa. So it seems like it's across the board, you know, just harder to come to the United States. And let me tell you, coming to the United States is probably the hardest thing ever.
Right, it was never easy to begin with. But what's really tragic about this the situation is people who invested a lot of time and money into acquiring these visas. I heard someone discussing this on another program, and I hadn't thought of it this way, but it's, you know, it costs money. It costs a lot of money to
That's
get a
correct.
visa.
Like for my mother to go to get visa again, she has to travel to Moscow, St. Petersburg,
Yeah.
from Baltic Sea. So yeah, so it kind of becomes, you know, it's cut off part of a group of people who would not travel, you know, if they have to pay double for that. My concern
Yeah.
even bigger, because we've seen that after political events in the United States, the tourism goes down. So we live in a tourist area. So right now, I read somewhere that dollar is its strongest. So it's already bad for us that dollar is so strong. So we're going to get less tourists, the tourists that spend less money. And now with all the political events, people will choose not to go to the States because
Yeah.
of the whole political, you know, disagreements. Look at England; they're protesting Trump like it's their president. It's ridiculous,
But
but
they're-
that's what's happening in the world,
Yeah, but you're right. There is an
and
economic
that's our
cost.
concern.
Yeah, there's an economic cost. It's a self-inflicted wound in that regard too.
I just in
And
a
the only hope for us is just we are California, and in the news we're fighting Trump, so maybe people won't consider California as much America, you know, as other states.
the Donald, the dummy, Bannon's dummy, said he's going to cut off all federal funding for California. He doesn't want to, but he just might have to do it.
He'll do that by
There's no
executive
Trump
order.
towers out in California. I guess San Francisco wouldn't allow the short-fingered Bulgarian
No,
out there.
there's not a Trump trolley in San Fran.
No, there isn't a Trump bill.
Well, I mean, they're writing everywhere that the California is surplus since 2013, so they're not stressing out much about
I
that
didn't know
federal
that.
funding. I don't think so.
Yeah, when it comes to federal funds, California ranks 46 out of 50. It sends more money in. New Hampshire sends, back when Judd Gregg was senator and the dean of the congressional delegation, it was all Republicans, New Hampshire sent, for every dollar it sent, it got 71 cents back. Whereas the welfare queen, Alaska, all Republican, hates the government, $3.40. And Arizona, a rich state, $2.80, because that congressional delegation knows how to milk that federal cow cow.
Well, yeah.
And that's where Barry Goldwater's from. Hates the government. Oh, the satanic government. But we'll take everything we can.
Well, as far as Arizona, you've got John McCain, who's 120 years old. So, of course, he knows how to milk that cow better than anybody.
He's 81, I thought.
Oh, I may have. Okay. I'm bad at math. You're right, 81.
81 years of age. And somebody not to be respected by President Dummy.
No, he was captured after all. Trump,
he was captured, wasn't
Trump only
he?
respects people who weren't captured.
He was a combat pilot that got captured.
Right.
And that's so shameful compared to somebody that got
sad.
5 deferments plus 4F the last time when he was exposed to the draft.
That's right. Trump was never captured.
Well, when you have bone spurs.
Right, right.
And you're 6'1" or so.
Yeah, 6'1" with bone spurs, yeah.
What do you think about Trump and Russia, his defense of Putin, that Americans kill people too? That outrageous statement that finally shut me down.
Well, I think Putin got really upset that he called him a killer. He confirmed that he's a killer.
Well, Putin's upset with Fox. He wants an apology.
From Bill O'Reilly?
He wants an apology from Bill O'Reilly and Fox News.
Did you read the press?
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, then Obama needs to ask for apology for the last 48 years from Russian state channels and state media who were completely bashing him for 8 years. So, you know. And it's really amusing to see how Trump fights with Australian Prime Minister and find no reason absolutely to find anything wrong about Putin.
If only we could run the SNL thing. Be hilarious.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I opened.
What should I do, Steve? Ivanka's gone, and so's my son-in-law. When the Jews are away, the goys will play.
Yeah.
Let's harass people and invade countries.
What?
So he calls Australia, Mexico, and then Germany.
Yeah.
I'm thinking to Angela Merkel, writing the struggle I'm having with the press. I'm thinking of calling it My Struggle. And, of course, she's shocked because that's Mein Kampf.
Yeah.
That was a brilliant piece.
And then Zimbabwe tells him
And
off.
what is, Zimbabwe tells him. But Alec Baldwin with that.
Oh, he's so great as Trump.
Well, he's always an excellent actor.
He's the best Trump
Great
ever.
stage actor, too.
Yeah. I was going to say, I speaking of Australia, I said on my show over the weekend, I said I never thought I would say these words ever in my life, but it looks like things are pretty tense with Australia right now. Who would have ever thought?
When I was in the military intelligence with Lisa, we had Aussies with us. They'd come.
Yeah.
Canadians, Aussies, and Brits.
Yeah.
New Zealand had put a ban on nuclear ships, so they got kicked out.
Oh, okay.
But they're like our closest ally,
Yeah.
except for along with Britain and Canada. We share intelligence,
Yeah.
and their troops, the Special Air Service, are prized. They were with us in Korea, in Vietnam, where the English and the Canadians weren't, and they were with us in Iraq and places. And the relationship is so close.
And Trump allegedly hung up on the guy.
In 1942, the Australian Prime Minister told Churchill to basically go take a flying expletive, delete it at a rolling donut, and embrace the United States. In 1942 in Roosevelt.
Yeah.
And the United States became the guarantor of Australian safety. And they loved us.
Yeah.
And they're a lot like Americans.
Yeah, of
except
course.
they have a horrible accent.
Then they gave us Crocodile Dundee.
Well, when in doubt, speak gibberish. That's the MI slogan. Hey, but I went on the Sydney Morning Herald, which is like the New York Times, their website.
Yeah.
Every article's Trump. Yeah. What's Trump like? Do you read the Russian press, Vika?
Yeah, Russian press is quite interesting. The government is kind of holding back. They're not really so friendly because they don't know what Trump's going to do, so they don't want to look stupid. But, everybody is excited to see what's happened next, because Russia is dependent on America fully.
Well, how is that?
And, because of the trade, I think the sanctions worked very well in terms of calming Putin and his surrounding down, because I think they closed them international loans and something in financial area.
Yeah.
And so Russia doesn't have their own payment system, so and financially they're dependent because it's a global market, so they're hurting quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Obama's sanctions brought Putin and the Russian government to the point of collapse, virtually.
Yeah.
That's why he put all his chips on Trump. But it's interesting because everybody talks about Dutch Reagan destroyed the Soviet Union, and that's ridiculous. The United States kept the Soviet Union, like you're talking about, the international system of payments is controlled by the United States. So the Soviet economy and Comecon, which was their equivalent to the Warsaw Pact, except militarily, Comecon was their European Union. They would never allow it to integrate into the world economy, so they couldn't get credit in order to facilitate trade. So the United States just, could strangle it at any point.
Yeah.
And that and Glasnost brought it down. Which,
yes, but you see, like if Russia would have a decent economy, it wouldn't be so affected. But because they didn't do anything to modernize it or develop some other areas, just selling oil, I mean, yes, it's great if you have a high oil prices.
Right.
Oil,
down like right now.
And oil and ore, minerals, like nickel and all the other minerals that the country has. It basically sells commodities. It can't sell machine tools. I don't know what a Russian TV is like, but in the 80s, if you got a new TV, it could burn down the entire,
really?
brutalist, Stalinist apartment block made out of concrete bricks.
Really?
Bring the whole place down. Didn't you? You lived in Kaliningrad. Didn't they build a palace of the people that nobody can go into? Or is
I don't know. No,
or is
I
that
didn't
East
hear about,
Germany?
but I mean, in Russia, everything that has to do with government has always a restriction on usage or access.
Well, it was either in East Germany or Kaliningrad. They built this beautiful palace of the people, but it's uninhabitable.
Really?
Because it was so badly done.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It's at the risk of your life.
No kidding. Wow.
Maybe it was East Germany.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about that building, it's still on. Yeah, it's still not
Kaliningrad.
finished, and they cannot finish it because it's been so long out there. They have to rebuild it pretty much, because of structural defects. It's been there since I remember myself,
Right.
That's embarrassing.
30-odd years. Because I can't see Germans screwing up, even East Germans screwing up that badly.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So what do you feel about, what's your take on Trump, and is this week 3? Or
God, it feels
it
like...
feels like
I mean, for me,
third year.
It really
the other
does.
day I just watched a Belarusian dictator press conference that lasted over 7.5 hours.
Oh, like Castro.
And
Wow.
right, 7.5 hours. He was talking to people, staged questions, staged answers, and funny enough, he was sounding exactly like Trump and like Putin. And for me, it's just constant deja vu. And I always remember Jon Hopwood who said that world is a freak show, and living in America, you get front seats to the freak show.
Your father said that?
George Carlin.
Oh, George Carlin. Vika's father was a captain, a mariner.
Okay.
He didn't have that kind of insight. But yeah, I kind of feel like it's a freak show, and I'm right here in the center of it for the second time in my life. Seriously.
Well, you said...
And I just hope that the system here can withstand a person like that as a leader.
Well, you said on this show that you felt that America, after the election, lost what made it special in a way. Because no matter what our problems or anything, and both Matt and I are critical of Obama. We were never ashamed of him.
Right,
we might
right.
criticize. He didn't get the war done, pulled us out of the war, or he equivocated on the environment or in pharmaceuticals. But we never thought he was insane.
Right.
We had to fear for our lives. This is
Right.
the first time I've ever feared for my life. I didn't even fear for my life on the Dutch Reagan.
Right, yeah.
Because you had Jim
John,
Baker.
I have
Yeah.
two comments for that. First of all, I think that criticism is kind of like becoming obsolete. Because with Obama, criticism was possible. With Trump, it's fake news. Anything criticism, it doesn't exist. And I think just the concept of criticizing the president kind of like becomes obnoxious. And the second, since this election, I hear more and more that businesses don't allow people to talk politics. And more people choose not to talk about it. And I was surprised because in Soviet Union, government would make people quiet with all kind of instruments and violence including. But it's like in the United States, people shut down each other. And I'm like, that's very dangerous. Like, government doesn't even have to do anything here, that people just stop talking because it's uncomfortable to them.
Well,
and that really worries me, that we are stopping discussing these things, and it becomes a fight right away.
Well, a society has a consensus. Reality is socially defined. Hannah Arendt, The Human Condition. Reality is socially defined. It was once controlled by the gatekeepers like the New York Times, the Washington Post, ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS. The gate's wide open now, and how reality will be determined. It's much broader who's going to determine reality. So there was always a consensus of what was real.
Right.
What is real? And honestly, that's how you come to what's real. It's based on scientific fact, the scientific method, to a great degree. You know, there's always hedging and harring and stuff like when you come to patriotism, or did George Washington cut down the cherry tree, which gets us, Kirsten, can we see number 6, the alternative fact? That's George Washington cutting down the cherry tree. I cannot tell a lie, but perhaps I can interest you in an alternative fact. Do you have alternative facts in Russia, Vika?
That's all we have. That's all we have left.
What is real? But even
Putin. Putin is real. That's the only reality.
And this...
Putin. He's real. Everything else is fake.
For the first time in history, we have a person that wants to be a dictator and thinks he is. He doesn't understand anything about government. He thinks Frederick Douglass, who was born a slave and died in the 1890s, is still around.
I noticed that, yes. He's getting more and more recognition for the great work that he does.
For his great intellect.
Yes,
yes.
yes.
Donald Trump's great intellect. And
but John,
he
think
doesn't know
about
about
it.
separation.
All businessmen, all person who runs a company, they are dictators.
Right.
Every business runs like dictatorship.
That's why you don't. The idea. Oh, he can run a business. That means he can run government better. No, because it's completely different.
Right.
It's like saying, hey, this guy's a hell of a plumber. You need a brain surgery?
Right.
Hey, we'll get the plumber's friend. You know. We'll get that big tool when you cut the big pipes, pop it off, and I'll get the plumber's helper.
Well, the thing is, all these Republicans are giving
They
him all
do
this...
use them for heart attacks.
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
That's what we have. We don't have a defibrillator here for all the old farts that are on the shows.
We
got a plumber's helper.
Plunger.
It's got a gold.
Hey, John, to illustrate your plumbing example, you can look at our brain surgeon who is going to be into plumbing.
Oh, Jesus, that's right. That interesting fellow is now the head of HUD.
Ben Carson, yes.
Who never did anything except, I guess, appear on a TV show.
A brain surgeon who doesn't believe in science. It's remarkable. No, but you got
House he ain't, right?
Right. you got all these Republicans giving Trump all this credit for, look how much he's accomplished. We're only a couple weeks in. Look at everything he's done, and it's like
he's destroyed the Western Alliance that's been built up since 1942.
I could do a lot too if I had a pen and a pad of paper and a desk, and I could just sit there and write decrees all day like Caesar,
They say, oh, he reminds me of Reagan. Well, Reagan had a chief of staff named James Baker, who was sitting with Pence at the Patriots game, the Super Bowl, and he was a brilliant guy that in the parliamentary system would have been a prime minister. Brilliant. Greatest secretary of state we probably ever had. The Russians, I wouldn't say they were afraid of him, but maybe they were, because the thing the Russians said, this is when you were just a girl, a slip of a girl, Vika. Not that you still aren't a slip of a girl. That whatever he said, that's it. There's no... And he's a great negotiator, but with the Russians, he had a firm hand.
Yep. Yeah.
And but he's not the chief of staff. Who is the chief of staff? Do we even know? Does he have one?
Right, Priebus.
Oh, that imbecile. I've met him. He's just a PR flack.
Yeah.
Good God.
He looks like a weasel, literally.
Darth Cheney had been a chief of staff for one president, secretary of defense, and everything. No matter what you thought about him, you could never question the guy's competence or his intelligence.
Of course, yeah.
But this is a record-breaking administration in many ways. How low can you go? How low can the United States go, Vika? We've never lived in a country like Russia.
We're shattering glass floors instead of glass ceilings.
Well, I guess the best-selling book right now is the 1984?
Yeah, George Orwell, yeah.
Alternative
Yeah,
facts.
that's how low you can go.
Yeah.
I'm sure the name Winston Smith, who's a protagonist in 1984, has been taken by thousands or millions of people on, Facebook page, whatever, Gmail or whatever. Winston Smith, 1984 / 1,000,2002.
I always preferred Animal Farm. Maybe that's where we'll end up. The animals can run the show in the end.
They are right now.
Yeah,
Napoleon.
yeah, that's right.
We got a pig in the White House. What was it? What was it? The great saying: all creatures are created equal. But what was it in Animal Farm? The thing, all the animals are created equal, but the pigs, some are more equal than others.
Okay, it's been
Because
so
they changed.
long.
Yeah, they changed it after a while. To the
Yeah.
pigs take over.
Yeah. It's been a long, literally decades since I read that.
It's funny because both were Animal Farm's a burlesque of the Soviet Union of the 30s, and 1984, which was written in 1948, so it just flipped around, was Eric Blair, George Orwell's, that's his real name, Eric Blair, his thought about what must be going on in Russia right now, Soviet Union right now. And Soviets read it, said, boy, he has an uncanny idea of what's going on. But he had served in Spain with the Trotskyites, and he hated the Stalinism.
Yeah.
But he was a socialist. But I tell you, Vika, not only should you read 1984, you've got to read, again, Brave New World. Because the way you really control people in society, sex and drugs and the dream. What's your, we only got a minute, what's your version of the American dream now, Vika, that the dummy Trump is President of the United States? First magistrate.
I'm not sure about the American dream, what that is. I mean, I don't think I understood it before. I don't think I understand now. But let me tell you, when I watch Homeland or House of Cards, I have a hard time distinguishing reality from fantasy.
Really, they used to say House of Cards was a hyperbole, went too far. Jeez. Not anymore. Hey, Kristen, how much time do we have left?
Maybe American society is aging, and maybe that dream was only typical for a new society, and maybe that's it. Maybe it's over.
Hey,
I don't agree. I'm more of an optimist with that.
now, do you want Vika to stay on for 10 minutes on your show? I'd like to talk about the American dream.
If she'd like to, sure.
Hey, folks, Ward 13, hopefully next week we'll have our guest, Heather Saigan-Olet from Glesson, who's been here before. She couldn't make it because of the weather. And stick around for Matt Connerton, Unleashed.
Yes.
See you next week at Ward 13.
You're dinging.
John, can you call me back?